spending every Sunday afternoon leisurely rubbing oils into the wood to make it shine. The other chore she reserved for Sundays was cleaning laundry. Up until I reached my school-aged years, this was my favorite activity to help her with. She would sing fragments of happy tunes as she went about her work, teaching me how to hum and sing along, so that together we filled the air with our joyous music. After she finished scrubbing each garment thoroughly with a bar of thick, creamy soap, checking for stains, she would pile them all together into a well-used wicker basket. Once the basket was overflowing, she would lift it from its resting place, cueing me to stand up from my stool next to the sink and follow her outside. She would hand me a paper bag full of rounded clothespins, and after she smoothed out each individual garment and positioned it on the clothesline, my important job was to slip the clothespins into place. It seems rather silly, thinking back, that this simple task provided me with so much joy. It made me feel as though I had a sense of purpose, that I was helping my mother with her duties, and that for the first time I had something of value to offer to another person. Once a month, she would wash the handmade, half-length linen curtains that adorned every window. There must have been at least a dozen of them. On these occasions, Mother's Sunday chores took well into the evening. I treasured these days the most because it meant additional time assisting my mother with the cleaning of the charming window furnishings I found so fascinating. I recall how the curtains floated in and out, sometimes even fluttering out to the sides like nimble ballerinas on windy days. The unpredictable rhythm of their dancing soothed my spirit. I'd oftentimes sit on the floor with my legs stretched out in front of me, staring up at the windows as people walked by, watching as the linens danced, entirely entranced. Through these windows, the heavenly sweet smells of my mother's daily baking drifted outside, so that even before Mendel and I opened the door, we knew what we would be having for dinner and dessert. Sometimes I thought maybe she cooled her tarts close to the kitchen window just to tantalize our senses so much so that my brother and I would be lured inside of our own accord, thereby willingly capping off our evening outdoor playtime without a fuss. It worked so well that our friends were known to follow us inside to share in the pleasure of enjoying Mother's delicacies. There was always something baking in the oven. Rye breads, pastries, and meat dishes were her specialty. Just as most children would describe their childhood as being carefree, so would I. I would even go so far as to refer to that time as idyllic. To me, Warsaw was a city of endless pockets of magic. I didn't fully appreciate the intrinsic beauty of the historic architecture until I was an adolescent. But as a young boy, my imagination told me that the cathedrals, churches, and synagogues were palaces in which kings and princesses resided. Every time I walked past one of these magnificent structures, I would inch up to it and then lean my head all the way back, looking up to the pinnacle of the roof. The palaces would seem to rise up to greet the clouds. I would then close my eyes and pretend I was a knight ready to save a distraught princess. Sometimes I would stand there for hours, always hoping that a princess would appear and cry out to me, fulfilling my fantasy. When I returned home at night, my mother would ask me where I had been that afternoon, but I would never tell her about my journeys to the palaces. I always had a detailed, prepared excuse to offer her, usually involving visiting my friends or sitting on the sidewalk across from a coffee house, listening to the clanging of china, adult gossip, and accordion music. She'd smile at me like she knew I was hiding something, but she never made me unlock my chest of secrets. My mother, like mothers tend to do, somehow discovered my fascination with fairy tales, because the first time I brought home a report card full of high marks, she took me to see a real palace.